My daughter is 15 and she has just started learning to drive. She passed her highway code and she has driven for 20 hours with an instructor. So now she wants to drive with me. Wish me luck. Hello, I'm Rachel. Welcome to Smile English Stories, where you can listen to English in lots of different contexts. If I drive too quickly or too slowly, you can change the speed in YouTube. So, do you think I should give her the car keys or not? In England, we can only start driving at 17, but you don't have a minimum amount of time with an instructor. In France, you can start learning to drive at 15, but you need to pass your highway code, and then you need to have 20 hours driving with an instructor. You need to have a conduite accompagnée, which is accompanied or supervised driving sign on your car. In England, you will see L's on people's car. L means learner driver. So daughter, do I give you the keys or not? Okay, here you are.
Thanks, Mum. Don't worry.
Oof. So I'm back safely. So we went for a drive in the countryside. There is a lot of countryside around here. We have forests and little villages to drive round. So it's quite good for practicing the first time. So first we drove along a B road. In England, a B road is a minor road. It's a road which is not very big and it connects villages together, for example. So we drove to the next village on the road. Usually you can pass other cars on a B road, and so here you can see we are driving past another car, and then we saw the 50 kilometers an hour sign, which is always at the entrance to a village in France. And so we slowed down and we drove into the village. And when we got into the village, we saw another signpost to slow down, this time to 30 kilometers an hour, because the road narrowed in the village and we had to be very careful and look, because we didn't have priority on the road. So we continued driving through the village and we drove over a zebra crossing, but there was nobody wanting to cross the road, so that was okay. And then we had to slow down again because there was a signpost for a school and there was a sleeping policeman on the road. Unfortunately, France has copied the UK, and we now have a lot of sleeping policemen on the road, which you have to drive over very slowly if you don't want to ruin your car. So then we continued driving past the school and we slowed down to say hello to the postman. And then we drove out of the village, but we started to drive very quickly. Stop, I said. It's not the motorway. No, just joking. And then we slowed down again because there were some cyclists coming past. I think it must be the Tour de France soon. Mandy was not sure about this new driver in the car, but she seemed quite happy. So then we drove through another village with another sleeping policeman and pedestrian crossing, zebra crossing. We drove past some more cars who were out for a drive. Over another sleeping policeman. Another zebra crossing.
Looking for a right-hand turn.
And then we saw the church in the village. The churches where I live are very beautiful. They often have coloured roofs with different coloured tiles on them. And eventually we decided to turn right. And to drive back out into the countryside through the village. We drove past a camper van on the left. My parents like travelling in France in a camper van, but it wasn't them. Over another sleeping policeman before we could go out of the village. My car is an automatic car, so it's not very good at going round bends in the road. So my daughter likes using the sport mode. So she put the sport mode on, which means she can go round the bend more quickly. So we went round a right-hand bend and round a left-hand bend. And by this time, I think Mandy was starting to feel a little sick. So we decided to turn right and drive up the hill to a little forest. It was a bendy road going up the hill, but we stopped and we parked. And then Mandy got very excited because she could get out of the car and go for a little walk in the forest. Then we realised it was getting late, and in France at the moment we have a curfew, which means we need to be back home before 6 o'clock in the evening. So we drove back down the hill, but when we got back onto the B road, we got behind a tractor and we had to drive behind the tractor all the way through the countryside to the next village. My daughter was not happy because she couldn't overtake the tractor. It wasn't possible to get past. So we drove through the village, behind the tractor, over the sleeping policemen behind the tractor, back through the countryside behind the tractor. But then eventually the tractor stopped because it had arrived at its farm. So we could continue through the countryside to get back home. Slow down, I said. Slow down, daughter. It's not a motorway. You should be driving at 80 kilometers an hour. So we drove past a lot of people going through the villages because people were trying to get home before the curfew, before 6 o'clock. We drove up through the forest, and you can tell it was getting late because some people had their headlights on their cars. So we drove down into the last village, over another sleeping policeman, bump, across another zebra crossing or pedestrian crossing, and another sleeping policeman. And then we had to stop because we didn't have right of way and the road had narrowed. And we passed a lorry coming the other way. And eventually we drove up out of the last village and over the motorway. And then my daughter said, "Please, can we drive on the motorway sometime?" That's perhaps what we will do next time. When we got nearer home, the sun was going down. It was the sunset. And so we got home just in time for the curfew. And we knew we were home because Mandy started barking. Mandy thinks she should be a guard dog. So I hope you enjoyed my little adventure with my daughter driving in the countryside. If you did, give me a thumbs up and do share the video with a friend who likes listening to English. And I'll see you next time with another story or another adventure. There's plenty to watch in my different playlists. Take care of yourself and see you soon. Bye for now.